In the last video, we discussed introduction of the Indian history and also geographical impact on the Indian history. Now, we are going to start sources of Indian history. What are the sources used to reconstruct the Indian history? That we need to discuss now. Because if you understand the sources, how to reconstruct the Indian history, definitely you can understand Indian history properly in the proper way. How sources used to the reconstruction of the Indian history? So sources are the used for the reconstruction of Indian history. For example, if you attend for the interviewer wanted to know about yourself, you need to produce some certificates like SSA certificate, intermediate, degree, like that. These are the sources to know about yourself. Same like that, to know about the Indian history, we needed some sources like archaeological sources and literary sources. Sources are broadly divided into two parts: archaeological sources and literary sources. Archaeological sources, again, you can divide into three parts, epigraphs, numismatics, monuments. Literary sources you can divide broadly into the two: indigenous and foreign literary sources. Indigenous, again, you can divide into religious and secular. These religious sources are Brahmanical religious sources, that is Vedic religious sources, Buddhist religious sources, and Jain religious sources, also Islamic religious sources. So based on all these sources, we will reconstruct the Indian history. So sources are most important to know and to reconstruct the Indian history. First we will discuss one by one archaeological. First we will take the archaeological sources, how they are going to use for the reconstruction of the Indian history. చరిత్ర నిర్మాణానికి ఆధారాలు చాలా అవసరం. Archaeological sources. What is archaeology? Archaeology, it is the study of artifacts. Study of artifacts. Archaeology is the study of artifacts or study of human activity through the recovery and analysis of material culture. Archaeology is the study of human activity through the recovery and analysis of the material culture. This material culture, we can call it as artifacts. What are the artifacts? Mostly artifacts are the stone tools. Stone tools, what we used, artifacts. Along with the stone tools, pottery, whatever they use the pottery. Some ruined buildings. Ruined buildings also comes under the artifacts. Terracotta figures or terracotta clay toys, paintings available of every age. So including of all these includes under artifacts. So archaeology, we can understand that is the study of artifacts, study of the stone tools of that area, pottery, ruined buildings, terracotta figures, paintings, etc. So all this will come under the archaeology department. So archaeology, how this archaeology used to reconstruct the Indian history. Coming to this point, in the archaeology, we already discussed archaeology. There are three parts in the archaeology: epigraphs, numismatics, monuments. First we will come to the point of epigraphy. Epigraphy or epigraphs. Epigraphy is the study of inscriptions. Epigraphy is study of inscriptions. Study of inscriptions. What are inscriptions? Inscriptions, they are also called as edicts. Inscriptions are edicts. These are engraved on the stones, or any hard surfaces. Engraving on the stones or any hard surfaces like metals, copper plates. We also used copper plates for the writing of the edicts or inscriptions. So this is ideas of the, we can know, after studying of the inscriptions, we can know the idea of writings of humankind. Idea of writings. We can know the idea of writings, how they wrote, how the script evolved from one stage to the another stage, evolution of the script, using of the script, and location of that area, location of inscriptions. It speaks about the location of the inscriptions. Most of the inscriptions we used to call on the names or locations, like Junagar inscription. So based on the content, coming to this point, how the epigraphs or inscriptions divided. Based on the content what they used, we can divide inscriptions into different types. For example, we will discuss one by one. Commercial inscriptions. These commercial inscriptions are seals used in the Indus Valley civilization period or Harappan civilization period. Mostly they are in the square, what they use, they are in the square shape or rectangular shape. Square shape or rectangular shape. On seals, suppose this is a seal in the square, there would be one figure. Above the figure, you can find some signs like this. These signs represents the writings. But till now, nobody knows, nobody deciphered the Indus Valley civilization. Most of these are in pictographic. These are pictographic or logographic. This pictographic or logographic script did not yet understood by the historians till today. So like this, some columns were given on the above the figures. Swastik, like we also take swastik from the inscriptions of the Indus Valley civilization. After the commercial, next magical inscriptions. Mostly these magical inscriptions are amulets. What they used? Amulets, amulets. On that amulets, like they used to take one copper plate, writing on the copper plate, that was also, we can call it as a inscription. And this contains magical formula, some magical formulas. Suppose if you take like this, it's like this, there were some magical formulae. So these are the another type of the inscriptions. Next, religious inscriptions or didactic inscriptions. It speaks about the religious and moral matters. They speaks about moral matters, ethics, like Ashoka's Dhamma. Ashoka's Dhamma is one type of the religion. Ashoka's edicts, Dhamma edict of Ashoka can speak the religious matters. After this, eulogistic inscriptions. These eulogistic inscriptions significant from the political point of view. These are most significant from the political point of view because it gives name of the person who issued genealogy of the dynasty of the issued ruler, and whatever earliest context, that is earliest wars, earliest conquest or earliest wars what he used. This eulogies speaks about the victories and achievements of the ruler. For example, Allahabad inscription. This is also called as prasasti. Eulogy is also called as prasasti. It is more than inscription. ఇది ఇన్స్క్రిప్షన్ కన్నా పెద్దది, ఎక్కువ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇస్తుంది. ఇట్ ఈస్ మోర్ ఇన్ఫర్మేటివ్, ఇట్ గివ్స్ మోర్ ఇన్ఫర్మేటివ్. ప్రశస్తి, అలహాబాద్ ప్రశస్తి, యరాన్ ప్రశస్తి, ఐహోలే ప్రశస్తి. లైక్ దిస్ వీ కెన్ టేక్ ద ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఆఫ్ ది ప్రశస్తి. ఆఫ్టర్ దిస్ dedicative inscriptions. Some inscriptions are dedicated. For example, Barabar Hill Caves. Barabar Hill Cave inscriptions. These Barabar Hill Cave inscriptions speaks about donations to the Buddhism by the Ashoka and also Dasaratha. Ashoka donated his inscriptions to the Buddhist monks, and also latter period Dasaratha dedicated these inscriptions to the Buddhist monks. Next, Piprava inscription. This also speaks about Buddhist donations. That also speaks about the Buddhist donations. So number of dedicative or donated inscriptions we can come into the point, and we can find several places. After this, commemorative inscriptions. These commemorative inscriptions speaks about the birth of the great personalities or death of the great personalities. On the memory of the birth of the great personalities or death of the great personalities or other important incidents of the great personalities. For example, Rummindai inscription. Rummindai inscription issued by the Ashoka on the memory of the birth of Lord Buddha's birth. Rummindai is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. It was the birthplace of Lord Buddha. Rummindai inscription speaks about the tax system. It speaks about the tax system because Ashoka, he withdrawn to collect taxes of these areas, Rummindai areas. Rummindai people exempted from the tax. So like this, there were different types of the inscriptions. Like this, inscriptions are divided into different types. Based on the information which is available in the inscriptions, we can reconstruct the Indian history. And next, coming to the point of historic, what are the from first to the last, what are the inscriptions available or used for the reconstructive Indian history? For example, first and foremost inscription which speaks about Indian history, Bhogaskaya inscription. Bhogaskaya inscription which speaks about Indian history. First and foremost inscription which speaks about the Indian history. What it contains, where it available? It available on the Kilgul Muhammad Hills. This inscription speaks about origin of the Aryans. Origin of Aryans. Aryans, where they originated and from where they came to India. That is Bogaska inscription. The names or the words of the Bogaska inscription are similar to the Sanskrit language. For example, Matra, Pit, Matra, Pitra, like several terminologies, they are related to the Sanskrit. That's why Sanskrit developed in India by the Aryans, and Aryans they used to issue the Bogaska inscription. So Bogaska inscription related to the Aryans. So Aryans came to India from Central Asia. So this was the important to know about the Aryans, origin of the Aryans. This was the first and foremost inscription speaks about the Indian history. After this, Ashoka issued many inscriptions in India. Ashoka, great Mauryan emperor. Great Mauryan emperor Ashoka issued different types of the inscription, n number of the inscriptions. First ruler in Indian history, huge number of inscriptions were issued. He issued different types of the inscriptions like major rock edicts. All the inscriptions of Ashoka called as edicts. Edicts, what is meant by edicts? Edict is a royal order. Edicts means royal order. Just like present we are issuing government order. The order means what should follow, what not to be follow. What to be follow, what not to be follow mentioned in the edicts. So that is what called as edict. Ashoka issued major rock edicts. There were 15 major rock edicts. Major rock edicts are most important. For example, 13th major rock edict speaks about Ashoka's Kalinga war. After this Kalinga war, Ashoka completely changed his attitude and he stopped the wars, waging wars. Next, he completely went to the way of Dhamma. So, major rock edicts of Ashoka speaks about Ashoka's personal life and also Ashoka's religious life and also religion of the Mauryan period, and also we can know from these for example, second major rock edict speaks about South Indian rulers, South Indian kingdoms. Second major rock edict speaks about South Indian kingdoms like Pandya, Kerala Putras, Pandyas, Kerala Putras, Cholas, like that. These were contemporaries of Mauryans of that period. So we are knowing from this South Indian kingdoms, and also Ashoka stopped killing of animals, abolition of the killing of animals from the first major rock edict, like that religious things and Ashoka's orders. Second, minor rock edicts, they also speaks about the religious conditions, Dhamma of Ashoka. Pillar edicts, different types of the pillar edicts. Next to Queen Edict of Ashoka. Queen Edict of Ashoka found at Allahabad. Later period it has been shifted to the Calcutta by the Alexander Cunningham. Allahabad Queen Edict of Ashoka shifted to the Calcutta by the Alexander Cunningham. Only one queen mentioned in the Ashoka's edicts. He was Karuvaki. We are knowing Karuvaki was the queen of Ashoka from the inscriptions. Ruminda inscription, we are knowing tax of that period from the Ruminda inscription. Ruminda inscription speaks about tax. Babru inscription speaks about the name of Ashoka. Like that, different inscriptions speaks about Ashoka's life, Ashoka's personal life, Ashoka's religious life, Ashoka's administrative system, Mauryan administrative system, social conditions of the Mauryan period, religious conditions of the Mauryan period, political conditions of the Mauryan period, cultural conditions of the Mauryan period. So after knowing all these things, we will reconstruct the Indian history. So sources are, especially the epigraphs are used to reconstruct the Indian history. Like that, knowing some areas, knowing some information, we will find the information and we will reconstruct the Indian history based on these things. Like Rudradamana, later period, after the Ashoka, Rudradamana, he issued Junagar inscription. Rudradamana's Junagar inscription was the first fully Sanskrit inscription that we can remember. This speaks about reconstruction or repair of the Sudarshana lake and water scarcity of that period. Based on that, we are knowing the things, life of the people. After this Besnagara inscription of Heliodorus, he issued Besnagara inscription. He was Indo-Greek ambassador, came to India. Based on the Besnagara inscription, we can know the Bhagavatism. Besnagara inscription was the first epigraphical evidence of Bhagavatism in India. It was a Garuda iron pillar inscription dedicated to the Bhagavatism. Next, Satavahanas period. Coming to the point of the Satavahanas period, queens issued inscriptions like Naganika issued Nanaghat inscription, Gautami Balasri issued Nasik inscription. All these inscriptions says about, suppose Naganika issued Nanaghat inscription, that inscription speaks about Satakarni 1. Gautami Balasri issued Nasik inscription, speaks about Gautamiputra Satakarni achievements and victories. We can know all these things and they are useful for the reconstruction of Indian history. Gupta's period. Guptas issued more than 40 inscriptions like Samudragupta. Samudragupta issued Allahabad inscription. Allahabad inscription of the Samudragupta speaks about achievements of the Samudragupta, victories of the Samudragupta and contemporary rulers of Samudragupta. Samudragupta defeated 100 kings. We can know 100 kings from the Allahabad inscription, the contemporary of Gupta rulers. Like this, Bhanugupta's Yaran inscription. Bhanugupta Yaran inscription was the first inscription, speaks about Sati, which is existed in the Gupta's period. Sati. Like that, Pallavas history, most of the Pallavas history reconstructed only based on the inscriptions. And Aihole inscription of Pulakesi II. It also speaks about the Pulakesi II and also mentioned about the Harshavardhana. Like this, inscriptions are used to reconstruct the Indian history. We can reconstruct Indian history based on the inscriptions information. Okay. So this is about the sources, first topic. The remaining topics we will discuss in the next video, like numismatics, monuments and all the things. Okay. Good luck.